Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesdays. Very glad you're with us today. It's August 30th, 2022. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you're welcome just to enter your questions in the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment field. We're monitoring both feeds, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you during the presentation. Also, if you'd like to network with everybody else who's on the call, part of being in LinkedIn is to network with other people. Put your contact information in the chat window so you can connect with other people who happen to be on the call today. Please note this event is being recorded. It's currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website almost 10 years ago, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon, or you're welcome to anytime you see me. I usually have a copy with me. And since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s, and I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we have coming up this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIC Crew. Just a reminder, your resume and your LinkedIn profile will not get you a job, but what it will do is get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills is what's going to get you your next job. So if you'd like to practice your interviewing skills, get a free practice interview, just reach out to dallaspicrew.com for more information. Well, we have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn. They rotate through on a monthly basis. And they each talk about, LinkedIn is LinkedIn, but they each talk about LinkedIn from a little bit different point of view. Today, our speaker is VandeMotter. He is a retained search executive at Linked Executive Search. He pays LinkedIn the big bucks for using LinkedIn and how to use it. And he's going to show us from the back end what he does to try to find you. So Kurt, thank you very much for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and I appreciate everybody's time today. I often start these meetings by making sure that we're all on the same page. By this next 45, 50 minutes that we spend together is really about everybody in the audience today, all of you that have taken time to come listen to this presentation. I don't have a formal presentation that I share a bunch of slides with. It's really to, number one, answer any questions that you've got about LinkedIn, certainly. But if you've got other questions about how do you work with a recruiter or anything else, I'm happy to take time to answer those questions as well. So Jeff's my wingman, and we've been doing this for a while. So if you've got any questions, as Jeff alluded to earlier, throw those questions into the chat, and we'll get those questions answered throughout the presentation. Don't feel like you've got to wait until the very end. This is not about me, it's about you all, and whatever I can do to help you accelerate or feel more comfortable in your search is what we're about to do today. So before we start on LinkedIn, and I will share a bunch of information about that, and we'll actually go in and do some searches in there, and I can share with you what it looks like from my side of the equation. But the first couple things that I'd like to cover off on is, I think it's always helpful if those of you that don't know, just a quick discussion about the difference between recruiters. I think that's always a good conversation, because there's really 3 types of recruiters that you're going to come into, that you're going to meet along your journey. And I think that having that information and understanding the difference between the 3 can be really helpful to you as a candidate. It'll allow you to ask better questions, and you'll certainly have just a better view of what the territory looks like. So real briefly, there's 3 kinds of recruiters. There's internal recruiters. These are the recruiters that work for companies like AT&T, I think AT&T probably has 250, maybe 500 recruiters in their organization. They recruit from everything from customer service to cell tower development, to engineers, to salespeople for retail, to executives, to the executive team. So they're always recruiting. Internal recruiters can typically have anywhere, and this number is going to be kind of a surprise to many of you, but internal recruiters at any given time can be working on anywhere from 45 to 75 different jobs that they're trying to fill. It may be that they're just filling, they've got an endless pipeline. They're always recruiting for, customer service reps as an example. But the bottom line is they're busy people. They're working for the hiring manager. They know the company. They know the company really, really well. If you get a call from an internal recruiter, you're probably pretty close to the sweet spot as far as what they're looking for based on the research that they've done on your background. So again, if I'm a candidate, I'm driving down 75, I'm driving down the highway, and I get a phone call and it's John Smith, and he says, I'm a recruiter and I'd like to chat with you for a few minutes.
Kurt, you have gone muted.
There we go.
There you go.
I pushed the button. So first thing you want to do is get off the road and try to find a quiet place to go to. But anytime you get a call from a recruiter, it's okay for you to say as a candidate, if they haven't announced who they are, could you remind me, do you work for the company? Are you an internal recruiter, or what kind of recruiter are you? So the second kind of recruiter out there is contingent recruiters. Contingent recruiters, sometimes companies hire maybe 2 or 3 contingent recruiters to help them fill a job. They've got a sales role they're trying to fill. They reach out to 3 of their friends that are contingent recruiters. All 3 of those people are working for the company. They don't get paid any money. And they only get paid money when the company hires a candidate that they've presented. So it's good to know that you're working with a contingent recruiter, because they're going to likely spend a little less time with you. They're going to want to answer a couple of very quick, specific questions and make sure that you check those boxes. Those could be boxes as it relates to years of experience, to salary, to any other maybe credentials that you might have or that they're looking for. But it's okay to say or to learn that that's a contingent recruiter, because once you get presented, then you're in their pipeline pretty quickly. And now you may not get a call back from that recruiter. You may get a call from the company, because the involvement from a contingent recruiter throughout the process can be a little less than 100%. The third kind of recruiters are retained search executives. That's the category I fall into. Companies find me, hire me through my networking, through different accolades that I've earned over the years. And they retain me. They pay me a retainer up front to help fill hard to fill jobs, or to help fill jobs. That retainer is non-refundable, and then it's credited against the final invoice. Take a Korn Ferry as an example, one of my competitors. They're a retained search firm. Their fees are somewhere in the 33% category of the first year package. And they take those 3 installments over a generally 60-day period. So that's the way they get paid. And they generally get paid before they even find the final candidate. But retained recruiters are going to take a lot more time to get to know you. They're going to spend a lot more time with you. They're not in as much of a hurry. Doesn't mean that I'm not trying to fill jobs quickly, but they're not going to be as in much a hurry as they want to present the best candidates available. So they're constantly talking to more candidates. We're constantly updating, any communications we've got with candidates, always in search of maybe a candidate that's better than the top 2 or 3 that we've already presented. So that's the lay of the land for recruiters. Why is there this product that's called LinkedIn Recruiter? So there's a couple of different versions of LinkedIn, and most of you should be using the free version. There is a pay for version, but it's not mandatory that you have that to conduct your job search. You can do a very thorough job search without having the pay for version. Then there's a Navigator version, and Navigator, Sales Navigator, is a product that is generally used again by recruiters, but not all recruiters. Let's make a very good point here. Not all recruiters use LinkedIn Recruiter to search for candidates. Because it is expensive, they can't afford it, or their company doesn't pay for it. But not all recruiters use LinkedIn Recruiter. LinkedIn Recruiter was developed a number of years ago, and I don't know if it was 8 or 9 years ago, but it was a while ago. And it was designed in collaboration with another recruiting firm called Korn Ferry. And Korn Ferry went to LinkedIn and said, we have a database of candidates, but we know that every night when we shut off the lights, that database is outdated. And it's impossible to keep current resumes and to know where candidates are going and to keep track of them and so forth. So in collaboration with LinkedIn, they designed and developed a product called LinkedIn Recruiter. And you're about to see that, but that's a product that is built on a separate set of APIs. So if you envision some building blocks, the foundation of LinkedIn is the membership community. And that is the X millions or hundreds of millions of people that are using LinkedIn, okay? That's the foundation. LinkedIn Recruiter is built on top of LinkedIn, and it's got a separate set of APIs that go in and utilize the data in LinkedIn. But the fact is that as a candidate, you will never be able to see me looking at your profile. There is a section in LinkedIn where you can go and look at people that have viewed your profile recently. And there are recruiters that pop in there, and you'll see recruiters, maybe not their name, but I promise you that I am not in that batch, and I'm not in any batch, and no recruiter is. And the reason is I don't want to be arrogant or cocky, but the reason is you can't see us, is because I use LinkedIn Recruiter on a day-to-day basis. And there's days that I look at 250 profiles. And if every one of those 250 people saw that I looked at their profile and they tried to ping me to find out, what are you working on? Can I help you? Or I might have the right resume, I would never get anything done. And so for LinkedIn Recruiter, they make it one side, and that is for the recruiter to have the ability to communicate with candidates. So let me go into Recruiter. Let's launch that. Jeff, if I go here and then I go share screen, right?
Correct.
And we're going to go down here to LinkedIn Talent. Okay, can everybody see that?
We can.
Good. Hey, Locke, how are you, buddy? Good. Okay, so this is what the dashboard looks like for LinkedIn Recruiter, okay? It gives me a whole bunch of stuff that I can look for candidates. So, I'll go through it really quickly so you can see the expansive amount of information. But I can search here under spotlights. This is probably one of the most important things. We're going to go into this more deeply, and you're going to have a lot of questions for us. But first and foremost, you can see that in my network, I've got access to about 940 million people, total candidates. Out of that, 96 million here are open to work, okay? And that means that they have either self-selected and they've got the green ribbon around their head, or they have told recruiters, which is a separate button you can press, that they are open to work. They're open to new opportunities, okay? Often when I do a search, and you'll see when I use this button, I'll start a search by trying to communicate with people that are open to new opportunities first. If I'm doing a search and I search for Kansas City attorneys, and it comes up as 1,500 people, I can't look at 1,500 candidates in an hour. So I'll go in and check the box, who out of that 1,500 are open to work, and I'll go through their profiles first. So it's going to come up later in questions, so I'll answer it right now. My recommendation is, if you are actively looking for a new job, you are collecting unemployment, or you are just actively looking, you're not working for anybody else right now. You may be doing some consulting, but you're not actively working. My highest recommendation is for you to check both of those buttons and let both recruiters and your friends know by putting the green ribbon around your head that you are open to new opportunities. This came up on a call the other day, and I thought it was brilliant when Jeff brought it up, because it was one of those things that I would say, you know, I don't want to be stupid, but it was like kind of obvious. But not all recruiters use LinkedIn Recruiter. So, you know, they won't have access to the button that says just recruiters. They're going to be looking for people that are open to new opportunities that have self-selected and put the green ribbon around their head. Okay. The other thing that it's an advantage, though, is that as you start to open up your network and you start to talk to people about your search, you may have friends that you've worked with in the past that are cruising through LinkedIn and see that you're actively looking for a new job. And it's like, holy cow, Larry, you and I used to work together. I had no idea that you were actively looking for a new job. We need to talk ASAP so that I can help you with maybe some great introductions at the company that I'm working at today. So, you know, you're actively looking for a job. That doesn't mean that you've got to put a red, you know, circle on around your head for the rest of your life. But I highly recommend that you put that green note that says to everybody, you're open to new opportunities. If you're a passive candidate, meaning that you are still working, but you're actively looking, that's a passive candidate. Then you probably don't want to self-select the green, but you may want to tell recruiters that you're open to new opportunities. Okay. So we will probably have more questions about that. And I'm just going to go through this section, Jeff, and then we'll stop and do questions. Okay.
Okay.
The next one is, are more likely to respond. For those of you that didn't know, LinkedIn tracks you as a person using LinkedIn. And if you don't reply to messages, then they put you in a category that tells recruiters that you're either less likely to reply or more likely to reply. So I highly recommend everybody out there, if you're not doing it today, start today, can't go backwards, and start replying to every message. Thanks, I'm not interested. Great idea. Open to suggestions. You don't have to write a story to this person. You can say, I'm not interested. Please don't call me again, or don't reach back to me again. But you can just use one or two words, and that will put you in the category that you're more likely to reply to messages. So highly recommend that you do that. Engage with the talent brand. That's my talent brand. 7,000 people are following me. They're watching what's going on. They're active with my brand. 18,000 have company connections. So those are companies that I've worked for, people that have that are in my we've worked for the same kinds of the same companies. And then 918 past applicants. So these are people that have applied for jobs that I've had open in the past. And not a bad place to go. If I want to open that up, I get a pretty good list of people, and then I can use other tools to, okay, well, these are people that have applied for jobs in the past. I've got some jobs open in Kansas City. Okay, so let's see if any of those people were in Kansas City, because, well, 17 of them are. These 17 people may know an attorney that I'm looking for to fill a job. So I can easily then, just through LinkedIn Recruiter, select all 17 of them, add them to a project, message them, send them all a message. Hey, Kurt here. It's been a little while since we talked. but I've got some attorney roles that I'm trying to fill in Kansas City. If you've got any suggestions as far as networking locations or people in your network that I should be talking to, don't hesitate to pass on my name. So it gives me tools that I can really easily communicate with small groups of people. Okay. Well, let's go back. That was just kind of a deviation on what that looks like. So let's stop there, Jeff. There's some questions in the chat box.
Well, nobody's put any questions in. They've been good about putting in their contact information so they can link in with each other.
Perfect. Okay, then we're just going to continue. So I'm going to go back to Recruiter. I'm going to go to, that's silly. Go home. Okay, so we're back here. We're going to go back to history. Those are historicals. Actually, we're going to go back to Recruiter. Sorry, guys. We're going to go to advanced files, filters. So that's where we were before. So here's the spotlight section. Again, that's all of these different filters that a recruiter can select to get closer to the candidate. So let's conduct a search so you can start looking at candidates. What job and what's going on these days? Is there anybody anybody want to throw out a job they want to search for? Jeff, do you got a suggestion?
I was going to say a product manager in Salt Lake City.
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to do a product manager. But it could also be a product category manager. It could also be a product development manager. It could also be a new product development manager. Manager's title. So we don't want to go into, directors and chief product officers and so forth. And then we're going to go and I'm going to look and say, I don't care if they have that job today or they've had it in the past. So I'm going to look at candidates that have both. And then Jeff wants to look at Salt Lake City. So I can go Salt Lake City metropolitan area. Okay. I can say current or open to relocate. If somebody said that they're willing to relocate there, let's consider those folks as well. I don't know what category should we look in? Consumer packaged goods?
That's fine.
It's a good category. So we can go back up here and go to workplace types. So going through this again, workplace types. It could be a remote or on-site. Skills and assessment. There's all kinds of skills and assessments that I can add in. If I want to start putting in companies, I can load in target companies, consumer packaged goods. It might be Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola. I can identify the year of their graduation. So I will only want to look at candidates that have graduated from this time. So I can go from, I only want people that have graduated from 1990 and through, I want them to have at least 10 years of experience or 8 years of experience. So we can go up to 2013. Okay. Update that. That's how many years of experience. Industries. I'm going to go in here and put in consumer products. Okay. Consumer goods. Okay. And then I can use keywords if I want somebody that's got Nielsen experience or IRI experience, or, years ago, I worked with the Borden Company and we were once looking for route settlement. That would be a key word that, very difficult to find people that have route settlement experience. So I could use that as an example. What kind of employment, permanent, temporary, and are they connected how closely are they connected in my network? Okay. These are the more advanced tools over here on the right, where I can go into if there's languages that I need to be concerned about, Spanish speaking or something. Is there a certain post office code that I want to search in? That could be really effective. I'm going to start a VP of sales search in Southern California offices in downtown Los Angeles, but they're willing to look at people that live in the Los Angeles area because they don't have to go to the office every day. We're also going to look in Phoenix, and we're going to look in Northern California. We're going to look in Las Vegas as well, because I think the cost of living may have an impact, and we may be able to get a VP or a sales, it's not a VP of sales, but a sales leader in sales and marketing, maybe at a better price tag than somebody in Southern California in those other markets. So I can put in specific zip codes if I want to. Languages, how recently they joined LinkedIn? Are they new? Are they, they've been there for a long time? Years of experience, how many years in their current company? All of these things are, people use these for different things at different times. And I could go through them all, but current companies, past companies, company types, recruiting activity. Are they in the funnel already, maybe somewhere else? As I get to really know candidates, I can look for first names, last names. If I sit in here, I cannot think of this candidate's name, but I know their last name. I can't think of his first name. I could use that. What do they study? Do they have advanced degrees, seniority? Do I want somebody that works for a large company or a smaller company? And what are some of the job functions maybe that they've had that maybe differentiate from these titles over here? So anyway, a lot of data to go in here. But as a recruiter, you're on this call because you want to see how I use the tool. I'm conducting a search for a product manager in Salt Lake City. I really would like somebody that's got, somewhere between 20 and 7 years of experience, consumer goods to start off. So I go up here and I hit search, and it's going to tell me that in the Salt Lake City area, I've got 136 people that I can talk to. Okay. So, that's a pretty good number. I can look at 136 profiles in about an hour. So let's just go to Rob, see what Rob's up to these days. Rob's background is strong. He's got a very good profile. He's got a current picture. It's just a picture of Rob. I say that because there's a lot of times candidates put a picture out there and they and their first name is, trying to come up with a name. It might be Sean. I don't know. That's probably not, it could be a good example. And it's a man and a woman. I don't know which one is Sean. Is Sean the male or the female in the picture? Not that it's that important, but I encourage you to just have a picture of yourself. It doesn't have to be taken by a professional. As Rob's done here, it's a quality picture. And then his header is very clear as far as what he's done. VP of sales, VP of operations. He's been involved in new product in new product development. And he's got continuous improvement, leadership, engineering experience. He's in the medical device category, aerospace. These are the areas that he's looking for. He lives in the Salt Lake City area. He's got about 500 connections. Then he's done a pretty good job of his summary section here. I want to really talk about that because this is an area where I tell candidates that this is the most unused real estate out there. You've got great space you can use here to not post your resume, but to literally write sentences like Rob has done and using keywords to help identify or to get brought in front of more people. Okay, so he's done a really good job of that. He's given you some of the contacts that he's had at Halliburton. That could be a company I'm searching for. So great that he threw that in there. He's worked in operational streams of 60 million and above. He's used to using KPIs. That may be a keyword that I drop in there at some point. So he's done a really good job of utilizing that space. The mistake that Rob has made is he has said that he is open to new work. He's open to work, okay? But he hasn't given me his contact information, okay? So if I want to get a hold of Rob, I only have one option, and that's to go here and to send Rob an in-mail. Okay. And I will do that all day long, but I would much prefer if Rob is really actively looking. Okay. Now it shows that for the last 2 months, he's been looking for a new opportunity. There it is. That's his job. You don't see that very often, but that's what that's not going to get us anywhere by looking at that link there. So let's go back. He is actively looking. He is no longer with the Champion Company. So it is a huge mistake for Rob to not have his contact information in there so that I can click on a phone number and call him directly and say, hey, Rob, I just found your profile. Gosh, I'm sorry that you're out of work, but you got a great background. I'd really interested in talking to you about this opportunity that I'm trying to fill in such and such and such and such. So, he's got a strong background. I mean, he was with one company for 9 years. Okay. He's not a job jumper. Before that, he was with one company for 6 years. He's got a BS in mechanical engineering. He's got his MBA from Xavier. So this young man's got a great background, but my only option is to send him an in-mail. Okay. And let me tell you about in-mail. The national average is about 8%. 8% of the candidates reply to in-mails. Okay. Very, very low. Okay. And so recruiters will send in-mails because it's their only option. But man, if you have given us your cell phone number or your email address, Locke, you move to the top of the class. Okay. It makes it so much easier for me to get a hold of you. And I can make a decision right away whether Locke's going to be a good candidate for this role, because I don't have to wait for him to call me. I can call him directly. Hey, Locke, Kurt here. Got this job. It's in this market. Have you done this and this and this? Yeah, I have, Kurt. That's great. Give me an idea. What kind of base salary are you at? What's your target package? What are you looking for? Get a little bit of information. Hey, you fit the bill of what I'm looking for. What's your email address, Locke? I'm going to send you an email right now too. Here's the job brief. And now we are moving quick. Okay. I got a candidate that I can put into my funnel, and this candidate checks all the boxes. And I don't have to go through all the rigmarole through LinkedIn to use the in-mail and hope and pray that Rob decides to get back to me because he's actively looking for a new job. I'm going to take a deep breath. Any questions at this point?
Yeah, Thomas asked, if someone on LinkedIn is soliciting business opportunities or products and services that are offering, but it's something and you do not respond, is that part of the calculation matrix that can be calculated in that profile recruiter views?
It is, unfortunately. That's why you don't have to say a lot. I'm not interested. Take me off your list. They're not tracking whether it's a positive response or a negative response or how many words you use. They're just making sure that you're replying to messages.
Heard one thing about Rob candidacy. He could have his contact information at the top of his summary, but because he's has an open to job, he's got a job, but he's looking for a job, he should have included his phone number and email address in that as well.
Yeah, he could put it in multiple places. Absolutely. And if I was looking for a job, I would do that. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, when in doubt, over communicate. And when I was looking for a job, I would go to the grocery store every day. I'd say to my wife, I'll go to the store today. And I'd get in line and I'd talk real loud to some of the folks. Hey, I get to come to the grocery store every day because I'm actively looking for a job. I'm unemployed. And I came home with business cards just about every day of somebody that's like, well, my husband works for a company and they're always looking for good salespeople. Why don't you give him a call? Or somebody would say, my aunt's a recruiter. Maybe you should talk to her. So, and then when I went to meet friends, somewhere, I might get there 20 minutes earlier and sit at the bar and have a louder than normal conversation with the bartender. Hey, I get to come early because I'm actively looking for a job. You don't know who's sitting there that might pick up on that conversation and reach over and say, hey, today's not the time, but I want to chat with you. Give me a call at this number after tomorrow morning sometime. So, you have to think outside the box. And this is one where, It's not thinking outside the box. You're not doing anything illegal. It is highly recommended that you put your contact information in there. And Rob's just a great example of that.
Kurt, we have on Shannon on Facebook asked, do recruiters still prefer MBAs in this climate of easily accessible education?
You know, MBAs are always great, but you know, in my case, it's the company that dictates it. More often than not, it is MBA preferred. But if you've got, you know, take me as an example, and I'm not a good example of it, but you know, before I started recruiting, I came out of the consumer packaged goods business with Dr. Pepper, 7-Up, and Pepsi. And for 10 of my years, I was in Northern Michigan working for Pepsi. And so for me to go get an MBA meant that I would have had to drive 3 or 4 hours every day, just one way to get to a credible college where I could get my MBA. And so then I got to be where I was 14, 15 years of experience. And at that point, I had a family, and an MBA just wasn't on my radar. So, you know, if you've got 10 or 15 years of experience and you don't have an MBA, you've got your MBA just through your experience. Now, if you have your MBA in addition to that, that could be a bonus for a company, but then you could be overqualified for that role too. So it's all over the map.
All right. Mouse asked, a contingent recruiter asked if they can share my resume with some target companies. And I asked if I preferred my name, asked if I prefer to keep my name confidential or should they share it with any of the companies. Any recommendation on either approach?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I haven't talked about that in a long time, Jeff, and I guess that it's still prevalent. That is what a lot of contingent recruiters do, is because they're always selling, and it doesn't mean that contingent recruiters are bad people. Okay, I'm not calling anybody out, but retained recruiters just don't do a lot of selling, because companies come to us more generally than we go to them. That doesn't mean that I'm not out there pitching in my business and telling companies what I do and so forth, and in hopes that maybe if they decide to conduct a search and use a search firm, that they'd use me. But I do very, very, very little of that selling. And so, but what contingent recruiters do is they will take your resume, and that was kind of that candidate or that company to ask you, but some of them don't even ask you. And they'll take your resume and they will send it to 200 companies and say, this is a kind of candidate that I represent. If you'd like to meet this candidate and candidates like this, give me a shout and I'm happy to make an introduction. And their phone rings plenty of times where somebody says, yeah, I'd like to know who John Doe is, because they take your name and phone number and email address off of that. They don't want they don't want their companies calling you directly. They want to get the business. So they take their name and mask some of the information so that the company calls the recruiter back, and that's an introduction for them to start to present candidates and get new jobs. So be aware. If you don't have a problem with that, then let them go for it. But if you're in your search and you're conducting a little bit more of a confidential search, maybe you're more senior in your search, meaning you're looking for a director or VP level jobs, then that may not be a way that you want your name and resume spread around the internet. So just be cautious.
One additional thing about that, Kurt, is the candidate should always ask who the companies they're submitting for, because they may have already submitted their own resume, and there could be a conflict between the recruiter and the applicant. And because there's a fee involved, the contingent recruiter is looking for money.
Yep. And it's a great point. It's also, it can be just, overly just damaging in the case of, that to your point, well, I'm already actively pursuing that organization. So I don't want my resume anywhere near their organization, because I'm in the hunt, and that could do more damage than it could do good. So you just have to be really careful, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to tell a contingent recruiter, I do not authorize you to ever use my resume for solicitation of new business. if you want to use my resume and present me to a company, I need to give you approval for that first. That's the way retained recruiters work. We always ask permission. Would you like to move forward with the process? Do you have a problem with me using your resume as I discuss candidates in the market with the company that I'm representing? Some cases, they don't even know the name of the company yet, but I still ask for authorization because I'm going to be sending their name and number and email and a resume electronically over the internet, and they need to know that that business is being conducted.
Something I want to point out for everybody on the call is notice that when Kurt put in the job titles, product manager, product category manager, he used the default job titles that are in LinkedIn. You need to make sure you're doing the exact same thing on your profile so you match. And if you notice on Rob's, the result number 1, new product development manager comes up highlighted blue. So any of those keywords that Kurt puts in, they get highlighted automatically. So Kurt makes it easy for him to go, yep, I want to talk to this person.
Yep. That's a great point, Jeff. It'll make you more searchable. It's a great point because we're in a time when people have come out with these crazy titles of what they do. And that's okay. But for LinkedIn, really good point. Make sure you're using titles that are searchable through LinkedIn and that are consistent with the industries.
My very first job I ever had, I was an electronic audiovisual tech 1. That didn't say what I did. What I did was I was a videographer editor, so you just, make sure you use the default titles in LinkedIn.
Yep. So let's just continue through, look at a couple more here, unless you got any other questions.
No, please go ahead.
So here's Tim, okay? Let's just look at Tim. He's open to new opportunities. Again, he's given me his email address. That is so huge, okay? He's currently ERP supply chain manager with DPS Skies. I don't know what DPS Skies is, so I can go in there and I can look quickly to tell me who that company is and what they do. So I can visit their website, World's Most Advanced Skis. Wow, had no idea. I can go to their website. I can see more details about the company, any videos. I can see the other 58 employees. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh man, I just love people out of this company. I can come here and look at all 58 employees that are on LinkedIn, okay? So a lot of different pieces of technology that gets embedded into LinkedIn Recruiter that can be very, very valuable for a recruiter. So again, not necessarily, he's not the product manager. He's more in the supply chain, but shoot, Zebco Brands. What's Zebco Brands? I think I know. It's a fishing company, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I thought. And they are out of Salt Lake City. Yeah, they're outdoor. Yeah, okay. Not that far away. So he was a product manager there. So it could be a candidate that I want to talk to. But the key is here, guys and gals, is that anybody on the call, is that I got this job opening real quickly. I can go in and send him an email, and I know that I'm going to get a reply there. Okay. I send the job brief. Hey, I just found you on LinkedIn, Tim. I don't know if this is a role that you'd be interested in, but if you've got 6 minutes, let's get on the phone and talk. And I guarantee within 24 hours, he and I will have had a conversation, and I'll either eliminate him or we decide to continue the conversation. Recruiting is like dating. It's like dating because as a recruiter, I'm talking to new candidates every day, and I'm just looking for the best. Who's the best fit? Who do I think the best fit's going to be for that organization, for that company? And as a recruiter, I don't always make those final decisions. There's many a times that candidates could be on the fence as far as their background, their number of years of experience, maybe something that they haven't done, but they've done something in a different category that could be very valuable to the organization I'm working for. So I remind candidates to always keep the blinders off, because you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. And you don't want to, Jeff, we laugh about this, but you don't have to turn down job offers until you get job offers. Okay. Candidates turn down jobs so many times before they get to the offer stage. I tell candidates all the time and remind them that there may be opportunities where a company wants to send you in for an interview, and it's a director role. It's really not what you want to do. Salary's pretty close to what you want to do, but you're excited about the brand and the product and the people, but it's really not what you want to do at this point in your career. And candidates often say, I'm going to self-select out. That's really not what I want to do. And thank you. I appreciate it. I understand. I don't want to jam a square peg into a round hole. Then there are the candidates that go, and I've got 3 or 4 examples I can think of immediately, where the CEO calls me after the interview and says, "Hey, Dane was so good. I'm going to make him the vice president of da 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 da. Keep looking for that director job." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't even know he had that job open." "Well, we didn't until a week ago, but Dane couldn't be a better fit for our organization and his experience and everything else. So send me an invoice for Dane, but keep looking for that director." Dane's ecstatic because he got a vice president job. He made another $30,000, and he gets to start in a week. So don't be the guy that says no to those interviews unless it's something that you truly don't want to do. I mean, I don't want you to go on interviews where it might be 100% commission, or you're in an industry that you don't want to work in at all. But in most cases, go through the whole process, because you don't know what you don't know.
One thing I want to point out, especially here on Tim's profile, is that if he had put contact information in his contact field, he would have had his email address and his phone number up here. And Kurt, using the recruiting package, gets to see that. Now, if I was trying to connect with Tim, you only get to see his contact information if you're a first degree connection. But Kurt, using the recruiting package, always gets to see that information. So it's fine that he put his email address down here in the summary, and that's fine for everybody who's not paying for the recruiting package. But, put it, like Kurt said, put it every place.
Yep. You can't overkill on that one. And then another part of Recruiter is over here on this far side of right, is that it gives me, I'm looking at Tim, but now it shows me similar profiles of people that are probably in different markets. So they're not most likely going to be in Salt Lake City, but it doesn't ever stop me from looking at these people and maybe identifying, maybe Denise could, maybe she lived in Salt Lake City at some point, or maybe she's got a connection in Salt Lake City that would be helpful to me. So, I often look at these profiles in addition to the profiles that I'm actively looking at. So, again, you get brought into those by these keywords, and you can't overuse keywords. Tim has done a fairly good job of describing some of the things that he's done, but he could use that real estate a lot better to give us a lot more details if he truly was an active candidate and looking for a new opportunity. So use some of these people that we've just looked at as an example of your own profile of, when I coach candidates, Jeff, I tell them, go home and make a list in the back of your notebook of 100 keywords that we could use to find you. And then go to LinkedIn and make sure those 100 words are sprinkled throughout your profile. Okay. Just add them in wherever you can, and use that free real estate to make sure that any recruiter that's looking for, even as that, what's the chance that, route settlement, I keep coming back to that, but it's kind of an old trade of consumer packaged goods, when the routes used to go out and you had to check them out in the morning and then check them back in the afternoon, and they got charged for what was sold off of their truck, basically. So who would think of putting route settlement in their background? I mean, I know route settlement is not as well as anybody, but I was in it in the arc ages before we had computers. So I would never have thought of putting route settlement into my LinkedIn profile. But I bet if I had back in the day, my phone probably would have rung occasionally because it's such a key word that recruiters might have been looking for me in some way. I don't know.
All right, we only have a few minutes left. A question I always like to ask, or make sure it's tossed out there. You said when you first call somebody, you ask them a few things. Do you have the following skills? And then what's your pay requirement? Do you want to talk for a second about how do you answer that question? What it is you want to know?
Yeah. I ask everybody that question because, excuse me, I'm working for a company and they've given me a range of what they want to pay for that job. I work with other recruiters that don't ask that question until the very end. But I put it at the very beginning. I put it at the very beginning to make sure that that we're on the same track. And so it's a hard question to ask, but my encouragement is to practice it, write it out, and just have it ready for any recruiter that ever asks. And that is just, well, in my last role, my salary was X and I was on a bonus plan of XYZ and I had LTIs of X, Y, and Z. And give them visibility into what your package is. A lot of candidates come back and say, well, you know the job better than I do. Why don't you give me a kind of an outline of the role? And that's a valid question. And it's a very easy. I just go back to the candidate and say, well, the target objective for this role is at $150,000, and there is a bonus attached to it. And that bonus will be determined and structured with the owner of the company in the first 60 days. But it equates to approximately 20 to 25% of your base salary. And then the candidate can say, well, that's way too low. I would never accept a job that low, or, okay, that's good. I fit in that range. Let's continue our conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, last question I'll ask is, what are your top 2 or 3 things you'd like people to know about LinkedIn to make it easy for you to find them?
Yeah. So the first thing is I absolutely make sure your contact information is in there so that recruiters can find you, reach you, communicate with you really, really quickly. The second thing that I want you to consider doing is to using the keywords, maximize that real estate and make sure that you're taking advantage of using the keywords and adding keywords and modifying that profile on a regular basis to stay in tune with opportunities. If you've got a hard time coming up with keywords, go look at job descriptions for jobs that you're trying to get. And what are the things that they're looking for in that candidate? Use those keywords and throw those into your profile. So those are the top 2 things. And then I, certainly reply to everybody. I think that's just a kind thing to do. And use LinkedIn to your advantage. It's so powerful. There's so many things you can do with it. And if you question, how am I getting the maximum out of it? Jeff is your resource. This guy's got people lined up every week coming in and talking about products like LinkedIn and other tools that you can use. And they're experts because they use the product every day. So take advantage of those people. Some of the people that he's got presenting actually charge candidates to work on their LinkedIn profiles. Sit and listen to those seminars and figure out the free advice. Make sure you're taking advantage of it because it's the one tool that all recruiters use.
One more question has popped in the chat window. If you want to be more searchable by title, can you put multiple titles in the headline separated by a slash or something?
Yep. Remember when we looked at that first profile, I think his name was Jim, and he had 3 or 4 different titles in his header. Absolutely. He also, we haven't seen a lot of candidates that put an actual in transition. That's another place that you can put the different job titles that you've had as well.
Right. Well, Kurt, thank you very much for your time.
Yep.
Really great information today. I really, really appreciate your time. And
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a blessed day, guys.
For everybody else, next week, our speaker is going to be Locke Alderson, who happened to be on the call today, and he's going to be talking about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies to get results. So join us next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. All right, I need everybody, if you can, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Oops. I, Jeff Morris, promise to always send a personal note whenever I send a LinkedIn request to connect with anyone. This includes when I use my cell phone or my computer. Very, very, very important. Whenever you see that white connect button on LinkedIn, it will, if you click on it, it'll automatically send that generic invitation. I do not connect with anybody who sends me a generic invitation. I currently have about 70 invitations in my inbox that I'm not going to connect with because I don't know why we should connect. So if you see that white connect button, click on the person's face, and then you should find a blue connect button. And when you find a blue connect button, that's when you can send a personal note. And that also includes when, even on a cell phone, click on the little more, or there's 3 little dots or the little hamburger, click on that, and it'll say to allow you to add a personal invite. So just do not send that generic invitation because people want to know where we met, why we should connect. All right, Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Tomorrow, we hope to have a practice interview that you can actually watch from the practice interview team. It'll be on Zoom only. It will not be on Facebook tomorrow. So if you'd like to watch it tomorrow at 1 o'clock via Zoom. On Thursday, being the first Thursday of the month, it's hard to believe that September 1st is just around the corner. We're going to talk about effective resumes. Part 1 of the session will be best practices for an effective resume. In part 2, we will seek volunteers to share their current draft resume, and we will take a look at that online. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, we'll do open forum the first Friday of every month. We talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. You have questions about your job search, whatever you'd like to ask, and everybody who's watching, everybody who's participating can go and offer their opinions and suggestions. If you'd like to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to do one or both. You don't have to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group. We currently have over 14,000 members, just passed that last week or a week and a half ago. So if you want 14,000 new best friends, please join the group. This session was recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. When you do, every time we go live, your phone will give you a little buzz saying we're currently live on Facebook. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, every time we post a new video, you'll get a little alert saying, Jeff, that we just posted something new. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. Every video that I put in goes into a playlist. There's 7 of them. And then down below, pick the list you want. Where you see that red arrow, view full playlist, click there, because what we'll do is it'll open up a list of all the different dates, the most recent date on top, and the speaker and the topic. And then that way you can go back and watch any of the videos that you like on any of the categories. We have over 390, almost 400 videos currently up on the YouTube channel. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please send an email to Career USA, the +subscribe@groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you can just open up grab your lunch, open up the email, and you can join us when we go live. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Kurt all of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So please consider making a donation so we can continue to provide the services that we provide. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great Tuesday, and hopefully we'll see you one day later this week.
Okay, bye-bye.